look, we're all still dealing with a strange time in our nation, and it seems like last night wasn't as troubling as the night before, and hopefully we are in a position where the things that are causing real concern, the rioting, the looting, the potential for violence, that will subside. That shouldn't change the topic away from the fundamental issue, which is hopefully we have arrived at a moment where there will be meaningful change as it relates to the manner in which law enforcement officials interact with African Americans and people of color. That is the message that Colin Kaepernick first tried to send 4 years ago. That is the message that still resonates today, Chris. And we spent a lot of time talking about it yesterday. Today, we're just going to spend one segment on it, but there are some important developments that we need to share. And this trend of quarterbacks speaking out has continued. And, some of the most important players in the NFL chiming in yesterday. Russell Wilson, the Seahawks quarterback, adding his voice to the mix. A lengthy statement that we have posted in its entirety at profootballtalk.com. You can see it there. You can see it at Russell Wilson's Twitter feed. My heart hurts, pain, frustration, outrage, sadness, and it goes on from there. And a very good statement from him. A powerful statement also from Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs quarterback, Chris. And look, whether it's white quarterbacks or African-American quarterbacks, the quarterbacks are the leaders. Yesterday we talked about how so many white quarterbacks have spoken out, and we shared the comments from Richard Sherman, the 49ers cornerback, who explained how powerful it is when white voices add their voices to this situation. But the quarterbacks are the leaders of the team. They are the most identifiable and most popular players in the league generally, especially guys like Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. It's just good to see more voices joining what hopefully becomes an avalanche for change, that it's undeniable that change is needed. That's what I hope we get to, the point where so many people are saying this is unacceptable, it needs to change, that change becomes a foregone conclusion.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, come on, the country's in a bad spot. It's got to change. What's gone on the last 4 or 5 years, really, come on, it's been longer than that. Just in a lot of our African-American communities and things like that, it's not easy for them. There's struggles. And of course, yes, white America is not making it easier. And, you said it, Mike, guys like Patrick Mahomes, He's the best player in football. White, black, it doesn't matter. It means something when he releases a statement like that, along with Russell Wilson. Now, the big thing to me, too, at some point, I do think that the next phase of this, so we don't revisit this topic 6 months from now again or 7 months ago, I do think some players are going to have to get on like the front line a little bit and start really putting faces with some of these statements and things like that to show that, hey, we're here for change. Things got to change. And I'm Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or whatever it is. And I'm here with the people to let you know that it's not right. And I think that time's coming too, because I just think there's too many NFL players right now that are distraught and angry about this situation and, in the way in which America is kind of going right now.
Well, and I think it's not just incumbent on the players, it's incumbent on others in positions of power and influence. And some people want it to only be politicians. I think that change starts below.
That's stupid.
By the time the politicians follow the lead of the people. And the most prominent voices among the people are the ones who need to be speaking up. And there have been a handful of coaches who have spoken up. Now, this is where it gets a little bit dicey because Brian Flores issues a clear written statement that left no doubt where the Dolphins coach stands on this issue, and it raises some very thought-provoking content as to the way some people reacted to Colin Kaepernick and the way some people quietly reacted to the murder of George Floyd. Frank Reich had a statement that he read to reporters yesterday. Anthony Lynn made comments to Jim Trotter of NFL Media. Matt Nagy did some media appearances yesterday. The Bears coach had some things to say. There was a Kevin Stefanski statement that was part of a much broader joint Cleveland Browns Columbus Crew statement, and those are the voices we've seen in some capacity publicly. But I assume every coach is dealing with this in some way, shape, or form. Pete Carroll, the Seahawks coach, basically turned the floor over yesterday during what
Right.
otherwise would have been a virtual meeting aimed at getting ready for the season to talk through these issues, and that's good too. Look, privately,
It's amazing.
within the confines of a team, it's important. It's important to do that. And I think it's also important, and it's an opportunity when their voices are made public for the rest of us to say, here's a recognizable name and face and voice who is adding to the chorus that change is needed. That's my broader point. The more people that we look at on TV and we recognize and we respect that say change is needed, the harder it becomes for those who don't want change to resist change. So look, it's good that it's happening privately. I'm hoping that more will join in publicly, and we'll see how that plays out, Chris.
No, I know. You're right. We need everybody to jump in publicly. Again, that's what I don't like about this conversation, something you just said a minute ago, where people are trying to say, oh, let the politicians handle this. No, screw that. This is a humanity effort. This has nothing to do with politics. This is about treating people the right way. It's about not discriminating against certain people of color and things like that. So it's a real issue in our country. And, it doesn't even matter. Yes, I first off, I could sit here and speak to just my time at Texas, Mike. I know I've told stories, but just for people to think it's not real is ridiculous. People used to yell to me, go back to, the North, you Yankee, because of the way I was dressed. I would wear a jersey, and dress like, I guess, what they thought was like a black guy. And they would tell me, they would yell at me, hey, Sims, you're white. Like, yeah, I know. Thank you. I look in the mirror every day. But it just tells you that those issues are real in our country. And lastly, Mike, I just want to say how cool it is that I think Pete Carroll does that with the Seattle Seahawks. It's what makes them a special organization. It's what makes them play so hard for him. It's what makes players want to go to Seattle and play in that organization, because they continue to show that their players, don't have to be robots and can have voices and personalities and care about people. So I think that is, something that a part of the culture that Pete Carroll deserves a lot of credit for. John Schneider, along with him, for setting that forth. And on a day where it's hard to go to work and study on football plays for a lot of guys, yeah, air it out, because this is a human rights personal issue, and I think it deserves talking.
And there has been, Chris, a range of statements and comments, some stronger than others. Some that just really grab your attention. And the Seahawks issued a statement yesterday that struck me in the same way that the statement from Raiders owner Mark Davis that we shared with everyone yesterday struck me. Because it calls the situation what it is. It doesn't sugarcoat it. It doesn't inflame, but it is candid. It has the kind of blunt, frank approach that I think we need right now to ensure that people don't forget this moment when it fades, and inevitably and hopefully the violent aspect of this will fade, but we still remember why change is needed. The Seahawks family is dismayed by the unacceptable act of violence that occurred against George Floyd last week in Minneapolis, and grieve that loss along with countless others in a similar manner, including most recently Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. Our heartfelt condolences are extended to their families and every other family that has had to endure the pain from similar atrocities. These biased actions are systemic and have plagued our society for generations and have culminated to the current state of unrest we are experiencing. That's the statement from the Seahawks. That's just part of it, but that's what grabbed that to really inspire all the way down to the average citizen who may not even be paying that much attention to this, to get their attention and inspire them to say this has to change. That's the kind of clarity that must come from the top. And that's another reason to applaud the Seahawks for how they've handled this, Chris.
No doubt. No tiptoeing. That's again, it kind of fits within the theme of the Seattle Seahawks. They're not a tiptoe type team. They handle confrontation head on. They're not worried about being political or maybe offending that white racist fan they have, or they're worried about, oh, he might go buy a hat later. We don't want to offend him. No, the hell with that guy. He needs to hear it from people like Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe that'll change him. So that's where, I really, really applaud Mark Davis and the Seattle Seahawks for coming out with those type of comments that are strong. Yeah, there's no wiggle room. It gets right to the root of the problem. It points it out. It throws it in our face and says we got to do something about it. And to me, that's the type of action that needs to be taken right now.
And look, sometimes the statements will spur others to act, and some of these teams are also initiating action themselves. The New Orleans Saints and Pelicans, both owned by Gail Benson. Statements are words, she said yesterday. Unified action towards a solution is what needs to come from this. Now, the two franchises formed a social justice leadership coalition. Saints linebacker Demario Davis, Pelicans guard Lonzo Ball, and J.J. Redick will be on that coalition, and that is another tangible way. And you know, we're all looking for ways that we can get involved, ways that we can help. And I think that when the organizations, the public organizations that are known to people who are sports fans, when they start finding ways to do things, maybe that also becomes inspiration, Chris, for the rest of us to find ways to do things.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any doubt about that. You know, I mean, again, and I think we need more people to come forward, more powerful people, more players, more faces be put to this conversation. And it can't be something that, you know, it dies out and we lose passion for, 4 or 5 weeks from now when this kind of the dust all settles from this. This is a fight that we got to keep, pushing forward, moving forward, continue to break those barriers with people who, just don't understand what's going on in this country, and continue to have that conversation for people who are sheltered in life, who don't get to be around a lot of different people of different cultures and skin colors and whatever it may be. They sometimes lack the experiences and things like that to know what, these people are, which is great people. And again, I applaud the NFL here. All coaches, players, a lot of the owners doing the right thing right now. We just got to keep fighting the good fight and keep moving forward with it.
Dolphins coach Brian Flores walking the talk as well, taking time out from a Monday that should have been devoted to preparations for the season. He and general manager Chris Greer and team president Tom Garfinkel spent time actually loading groceries into the trunks of vehicles for people in the Miami area who are in need of food. So, it's not just the statement, it's getting out there and doing things and providing that symbol of doing things. So all the more reason to credit the Dolphins and Coach Flores for how they've handled these troubling times in our country.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.